Welcome to the 4th episode of Brainpickers, where Dr. Jen Fram from Conversations of Change and Lena Ross from Change Hacks have just launched their change management books at the Transit Rooftop Bar in Federation Square, Melbourne, Wednesday, 26th of July 2017. Tonight, in front of a live audience of 260 change management practitioners and business leaders, they will answer many tough questions, randomly selected from the audience during a Q&A session.
Have you ever wondered, or have you ever said, can I just pick your brains? Have you ever had someone say to you, can I just pick your brains? Have you ever wondered about change, that mysterious thing that we all go through? Well, wonder no more. Tonight is your night to ask Brainpickers, #Brainpickers, themselves live and in the flesh right now. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Jen and Lena, Brainpickers Live, to the stage here.
You see, 5'2" getting up on a...
Keep it nice, Lena. Keep it nice.
Now, you all mic'd up, are you, Lena?
Only for camera.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, there's a little blue light there.
I'll go this way to make sure you all go.
Do we have well, I was going to ask where
There's a
box
Brainpickers
was. Where's
box.
the Brainpickers box? I can see the Brainpickers box. Bring it on over.
It's going to crowd.
Yes, that's right.
Which generally will crowd later. Won't you? No, that wasn't part of it. Sorry. Okay. So for those of you who have ever watched Jen and Lena live, Brainpickers Live, you'll know that they've been in some very exotic places like downtown Dalesford. What was the one in Paris? There was a location in Paris.
Hosier Lane?
It was Hosier Lane.
What the?
Not even the Paris in concert. Really wrong. So we've had Brainpickers live everywhere in the world, but right now I'm going to do the random selection from the box and ask the questions.
You're going to have to read and ban them first.
There'll be a bit of editing. Dear Jen and Lena, my name's anonymous. On behalf of a friend. Any tips for the subtle art of influence when, particularly, in brackets, CEOs are not ready to hear what you can plainly see needs to happen?
You can go first.
Okay. CEOs do not wish to listen, and you can see it plainly. So, I'm going to give you there's two answers to this. So the first answer is you don't bother with subtlety. And you frame it up as, I do you a disservice if I don't tell you what everybody wants you to know.
There's an actionable insight for you.
The second way, if you're looking for the subtle, is to do a lot more work on understanding what's keeping that CEO awake at night. And if you can frame the solution that you need to see in the language of what their needs are, you'll find that they're a lot more receptive to it.
Awesome. All right. Along the lines of CEOs, what is the next best thing you've ever done to turn around belligerent leadership?
Yeah, we've all seen that one. There's probably a couple of approaches that I take with what belligerent leadership may look like, and I often go through two lenses, and I often go through the lens of the external customer, because without the external customer we don't have business. So I try and drive a conversation around what the customer wants, which is usually where the change is heading, particularly in disruption. And then the second group that I focus on are the employees, and is this a human-centric approach that we're taking, and is this what the people want? And once you start to get that movement and the conversation shifting the mindset a little bit towards where the business is and where their people are, then you can start to drive a very different conversation. So I use those two levers as tools for conversation, without going in with a 60-page slide deck, sometimes just going in with a couple of very simple diagrams about what people are thinking, feeling and doing, which is the human-centric approach, and then trying to drive a conversation from there, and then trying to play the empathy card. Is if you were the customer, what would you be thinking, feeling and doing? And then if you were the employee, what would you be thinking, feeling, doing? So I take that approach as well. It's something that's worked well.
Thank you, Lena. Bit of a theme emerging here. A general manager is resisting a change and telling his people as much, but going with the flow because he's worried about a loophole he can exploit. How do I get them on board for genuine application of the change?
Oh, look, there were 3 concepts in that question.
They're a clever audience.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so first thing, the general manager is resisting the change. Congratulations. That means they care enough about the change to be engaged with it. So that's actually a really good sign. So pat yourself on the back about that. That resistance is your invitation to engage with them and find out a little bit more. The fact that you know that there's a loophole that they're going to exploit, I think actually gives you a lever. Because you can call that out as, I have done my risk analysis of this, and I see that there is a loophole that will be used. How do you think we should work around this? There you go.
Okay, all right. How do you get leaders to allocate enough time and focus to leading change in a change-fatigued company?
Ooh, we've done a Brainpickers on change fatigue, so this is one of our favourite topics. One of the first things I do that I've spoken about in our previous Brainpickers episode is I avoid the word change fatigue, because in a disruptive environment where change is the new normal, we talk about change resilience or being adaptive to change. So I try and reframe the language first up around change fatigue, and we'll talk through, I have a conversation around, if we use the words fatigue, how do you think people are going to be feeling? So I start with that, and then I think I have to go back to the question again. Hang on, because I got caught up on the change fatigue thing.
How do leaders allocate enough time to focus on leading change in a change
Yes, thank you. Okay, so when I've had the conversation around the change fatigue, then we talk about the disruptive environment. Again, what drivers do they want their business to adapt to and their business to actually succeed in, and try and paint the bigger picture around that, because if they don't address that, then it's the risk of not actually adapting and not giving the time to the change.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up question and not move again, and ask what are the practical ways that a leader can allocate time, make time, carve out time. What are those tips that you would give a leader to say, this is my job?
Yeah. So when I talk about change leadership, I start to introduce some of the benefits of agile practices at a leadership level, which go to a tendency towards the new ways of working. And part of the benefits of those new ways of working, if they do things more visually and do stand-up meetings and use enterprise social networking more as part of leading through the change, I talk about the benefits of actually the time they will save through formal meetings and some of the other more formal and conventional structures. So introducing new practices to lead the change can sometimes unlock or hack that mindset.
Which is a great segue into the next question, which I may or may not be curating the order of these. We've talked about change, and I think we're all assuming that we're face-to-face with our teams. What happens, and what are your tips, both of you, for getting buy-in for virtual teams in terms of turning them into change agents?
Look, I don't think it actually changes. I don't think there is a difference between whether you're face-to-face or whether you are online, whether you're by teleconference. The principle remains the same in relationships. It's not about you, it's about them. What is it about them that is important to them in this change? How fast can you deliver something that actually satisfies their needs? You build trust through delivery and relationship. And so that's the same whether it's online or face-to-face.
All right. question, I think it's an Agile question. I don't think I know it's an Agile question, so I think it's a question for Lena. What do you predict are the future challenges in Agile and change?
Yeah, and I'm happy to hand this over to Jen after me as well, because I know you've got some really good, cool views on it. Probably my first piece of advice for Agile Change is not to be anchored to a process or a step-by-step process that occurs with Agile Change. I think it's, and that's a mindset shift for a lot of people, that there is no prescribed one way to do it. It's a practice that draws on a lot of thinking and many different ways of doing things and new ways of working, and really contextualising it to your organisation and taking the big A out of Agile outside software development and how you use it across the organisation for new ways of working and leading through change. So you build organisational capability. So it's an ecosystem. I think that was what advice. I'm having a bit of a mental blank. So one question at a time. Did you want to answer some of this Agile stuff too?
Yeah, because I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
In the sense that you're absolutely spot on, that is what needs to happen. But I think the question was, what are the trends that we're going to see?
Okay.
And I think we're going to see it completely go to the dogs, because you will see this rush to quick fix certifications, accreditation, training, and pick up, oh my goodness, I've got an Agile methodology now, therefore I'm okay. And because you haven't done what Lena has said, you'll be in a world of pain and embarrassing the change community. I think that's the trend coming up. That's on water. What can I say?
Imagine if that was vodka. Oh my God. Okay, so again, a very good segue to another very, very clever question from our very clever audience. Apart from Agile, what is a capability or skill that change practitioners should get on board with?
My little thing after Agile is the human-centred focus. I think once someone can get their head around the human-centred focus and design thinking, they can shift the mindset themselves firstly about how they deliver and plan change, and also open up some very powerful conversations with their audience about how people are thinking and what they're feeling. It provides a forum for that when it may never occur otherwise. There's a lot of focus with impact assessments and change plans about what people are doing now and what they're going to be doing in the future, and very rarely is there permission, if you like, for a conversation to be driven around how people are feeling. And I think design thinking provides that in a very clever way and a very considerate way for the end users and the people. So that's my tip for future state.
I think, I agree wholeheartedly with that, but I think the other emerging capability that we're yet to see is the ability to future scan and discern value of what it is that's on the horizon. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed with things that are coming up in the horizon, whether they be fads or fashions or new methodologies or tools. So the ability to actually quickly experiment and then discern, is this value for my practice, is a really powerful capability for change practitioners.
And again, very clever audience. The word agile is used in lots of different ways, but it means lots of different things for different people. How will change cope with overuse of the word agile? I sense some ironic laughter.
Okay, it's already overused. I think everyone will agree with that. I think making sense of the word agile, I think this is a role that the change practitioner can play. And with audiences I've worked with, I actually do an activity that's called getting on the same page with Agile first. So I try and work out what the audience thinks Agile means and what I think Agile means, and it's not always the same. So one audience will differ from another audience. But it's important to get on the same page first, I think, about what Agile means, because that's when you can take the conversation further about then how it's going to manifest and look like in the context of that organisation. So I do a very simple diagram where I explain the big A A, the little a, talk about the little a being the ecosystem, the organisational capability, and then how we build from there, and then what it actually means for that particular person, that organisation, and the level that they're working at.
Do you wish to add?
The question was around what does the
Agile
change
is
community?
ubiquitous. It's used in many.
Look, I think our biggest power in the change community is that of sense makers, and to be protector of Agile. Just because it's being overused doesn't mean that it doesn't offer enormous value. And so it can be our role to be protectors of what good Agile looks like and what business agility should be, rather than the fad of the day.
And again, another great segue. What was the gap in the change practice or thinking that gave you both the impetus to write your books?
I love that question.
Someone very clever wrote it with beautiful handwriting.
I know who wrote that question. Stacey.
Look, for me, I really struggled with writing a book for ages. So because I've been blogging for about 8 years, people are saying, oh, you should write a book, you should write a book, you should write a book. I'm like, yeah, what's the book that hasn't been written? So that was the question. And for me, the piece that I recognised happened was pretty much all of the calls that I was getting in terms of even the contact on my website and the calls for change coaching from leadership was help. I've just put my hand up to lead this change and I don't know where to start. And then when I did the market research and looked at the books in the market, they didn't come from that empathy piece for the change leader. They were all written from the view of an expert. And so for me, that actually set up the frame to say, actually, there's a piece that's not out there which is helping managers and leaders and people who want to get into the field of change understand the complexity of the space. Yeah. Lena?
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to introduce something with a very practical focus like Jen did, and saw a potential gap in the market with a lot of change books. So the approach I took was, what is the advice I give people and what are people often coming to me for or asking me about? And like Jen, I started writing blogs, nowhere near as long as Jen's history with blogging, but found that with the weigh-in that I was getting on the blogs, that there was something there was an appetite, and that gave me some really, really good clues as to what that appetite was around. And a lot of it was around examples of what I'd done, how they'd worked, sharing templates, and what the outcome was. So really going through the end-to-end process. And with the Agile being flavour of the month or flavour of the year or decade, I felt there was also value in talking about applying the Agile practices in a way that would go beyond the fact that you may necessarily be on an Agile project. So one of my mantras is you don't have to be on a project that's officially declared Agile to use some of my practices. You can use them anywhere. The power of role modelling as change practitioners is enormous, and we mustn't underestimate that. And that's one of the key messages I wanted to get across as well. Do never feel disempowered, because we have so much power just by modelling the behaviours and the mindset that we want to see.
Lena, while you've got the microphone, your book has lots of change hacks. What's your favourite, or the one that you most want to share with our fabulous audience tonight?
Yeah, 52 change hacks. Wasn't planned for one week of the year, but it just turned out to be 52. It just happened that way. A very popular change hack that I get a lot of feedback on if I blog or tweet about it is using the hidden influences in your organisation. Find the people who have social capital. They do not necessarily have positional power. They have social power through enterprise social networks such as Yammer, or they're what Malcolm Gladwell calls the mavens, the people that you see networking and have a lot of influence across business units, across silos, without necessarily having, like I said, title. And they are the ones to tap into, and I call them Paul Revere's, because there's a whole story in American history about Paul Revere that I write about. So yeah, any tips from you on that? Oh no, you don't know all my change hacks, mate. No, so okay, that was a real Lena question. That one. That was.
There's a lot about the spiritual leader. So there might be the official leader, then the spiritual leader. We
absolutely.
see that a lot in sport as well as in business. Okay, Jen. What's one piece of advice? This is a great. What's one piece of advice you can give to people wanting to build their professional profile on social media?
Oh, fight the fear and do it anyway. Be clear on your purpose, what it is that you want to be known for and what you do. That builds your understanding of your own brand. From that falls out what you can do with each of the channels. But again, this is when I talked before about experiment, play with it, and then work out if it works for you. It's exactly the same thing. The tweet that you stuff up will be forgotten within 2 minutes, right? Unless you're a notable sporting person. But really, there is so little damage that you can do as you experiment with whether it is Yammer or Twitter or Instagram or work, Facebook for work, blogging. Just feel fear, fight it anyway.
I couldn't agree more. All right, ladies, what's next after the books?
A nap. Look, I think for myself, I'm coming to the end of a really fabulous engagement with Oricon. Big shout out to the Oricon folk in the audience. Thank you very much for coming. And so, I've got room in the pipeline for what's coming next. I hope there'll be a bit of a holiday in there as well. But I'm really looking forward to having continuing conversations with leaders that we do around the work. Simon and I have got an awesome business agility product now that we've started rolling out to companies. And we're having a lot of fun with that because we're seeing so many results. So it's time to do some more play and perhaps a little bit of a break in there as well. Yeah.
Elena?
I'm going on holiday. I had planned a holiday, thanks to my other half who said plan a holiday early in the year because you never know what July, August, September is going to look like, and I'm glad I did. But putting the holiday aside, there is a lot of work picking up now also in the business agility space, so it's a really great space to be in where you can share fantastic ideas with enthusiastic people who have an appetite to learn, and working with people like that with that huge appetite to learn and being able to apply things quite quickly and see results quickly is very, very rewarding. I'm also really lucky that I am on a contract placement with Energy Australia and loving the people I work with, so thanks EA for having me and continuing to have me for a few months and giving me flexibility as well to do some work that's associated with the book. I really appreciate that. So that's where my life's going to be for the next few months. And a lot of people have said, second book? Don't know, can't answer that yet. We'll see.
So finally, a big thank you to everybody who is in the room. You don't know how much you have made our evenings. Thank you so much.
Well done, Jen. Well done, Lena. It must have felt like, for those of you who have ever been pregnant, it must have felt like a gestational period. But quite seriously, everyone who's here today, if you haven't written the book or ever had to write 2,500 words in a day to a deadline, just try it, and it's a really, really tough gig. So kudos to Lena, kudos to Jen. You're both an absolute inspiration. You certainly inspire me every single day. I think a good Aussie tradition would be to do hip hip hooray. I'd like to do 3 cheers for the 2 authors. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
Want to keep picking their brains? Visit the website for more information.